What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are jumping in with more Destiny 2 updates. We've got some news coming directly from Bungie. Quite a few updates here actually, referring to power changes coming up soon. Additional conversation and context around the fact that Bungie will not be resetting power as we head into Renegades in Season 28. That's going to be pretty huge, both in terms of progression for us, but also, I imagine, it means that Bungie have to update a handful of their content plans for Renegades. So they'll be talking about that through the next couple of weeks. They also comment once again on the upcoming roadmap for changes that they have planned. Additional power adjustments next week. We'll also talk about the shorter term roadmap, some of the event content and things we can look forward to. And also it looks like Bungie are revving up to talk about Marathon again in the relatively near future, so we'll give a brief mention on that. We won't go too far into it. As always guys, I hope you find the video interesting. If you do, hit subscribe and help us out on the road to 600k. That would be massively appreciated. But now let's get into it. And so first up, as Bungie announced yesterday, they will be reverting their plans to reset power as we head into Renegades in the next season. So basically, whatever power we reach this season is going to be retained. We don't have all of the details on whether Bungie will increase the power level beyond 550, which it is right now. That's the limit. We'll get further details soon. They've also said that they will not reset our unstable cores, which is certainly positive, especially if you're playing the game a fair amount still before Renegades. That'll mean we can stack up a few. And yes, I appreciate that infusion costs and things should totally be reduced because they're pretty bonkers. DMG talks about this though. The team announced there'll be no power or unstable core reset with Renegades. Of course, this week we also got the new exotic axe. And then next week, the team delivers a big step in addressing rewards and power in the portal. Plus the team is also jamming on the roadmap, locking in dates and exacts, and we hope to have it out soon. So as soon as we do finally get that roadmap, I'll keep you posted of course. But with the planned changes for power, there have been a few good points raised. So Mactix pointed out, does this create a situation where retention in Renegades might be tough? And it's a good question. What's stopping already max power players from getting all of the God Roll Tier 5 gear in the first week and then just bouncing? We're going to need a lot of content and gear to get, and I totally agree with that. Again, whether Bungie will further adjust the maximum power level that's available, we'll just have to wait and find out. And while it will certainly have an impact on progression, just as Paul Tassi pointed out right here, the system as it currently stands is not really designed to do this in terms of actually engaging players with progression mechanics over the period of time. But equally, I'm sure a lot of players would like not having their access to the best gear limited by way of time gating or power gating, whatever it ends up being. So as always, it's a double-edged sword, but I think largely the reception for this change is positive, and hopefully Bungie will come back to us with even more good changes soon. As we do know, they plan things like weekly conquests, which will be replayable, an update to the seasonal hub with more objectives and chances at rewards, generally making weekly resets feel more impactful, and other sort of progression things. So there's a lot to talk about soon. We'll just have to wait for more from Bungie. Referencing the changes that we'll get in the next update though, next week there will be yet another patch for the game, that's the 14th of October, where Bungie will be adding another +1 to basically every drop in terms of power leveling, regardless of the difficulty. So that's based on the chart we can see right here. Probably even more impactful, or equally impactful I guess, is that bonus engrams will give scored rewards after the update next week. So any bonus engram rewards we get on top of completion prizes will now have the same power as the engrams from the chest. Of course, that'll be impacted by portal scoring, but if you're playing a mixture of activities with those bonuses, again, it's going to accelerate progression significantly, and it might even encourage more players to play a bit more of the game ahead of Renegades, especially if it's going to enable us to get even better loot even earlier when we get to the next expansion. So they're worth keeping in mind, and I'll keep you posted as Bungie give us more details about those next set of power changes. And now, focusing on the updates that we did get this week. Initially there was a patch with quite a few adjustments, some of them for sandbox and abilities, plus a bunch of fixes. Following the launch though, Destiny 2 team said, with the release of update 915, here are some of the top issues we're investigating. So, changes previously made to activity difficulty have been unintentionally reverted, making some portal activities more difficult than intended. Again, I feel like this could be a result of Bungie pushing so many updates so frequently. But additionally, they say, breaking Vex crystals in the Heliostat mission is not granting Wolfsbane intrinsics to all players in the fire team, so as far as I know, it basically means the player that actually destroys the Vex cube ends up getting the intrinsic, while the other players are left unable to get it, which is obviously not ideal. Otherwise, the Vault from Inventory function is not working when using a controller, and the Whirling Ovation catalyst is not dropping as intended, so Bungie got more stuff to fix following this update. They've also said in next week's update, there should be a final fix for players collecting the data pads for seasonal challenges. And I guess that will come alongside the further adjustments to power. For the content we got this week though with the new exotic mission, there's been a lot of conversation about it. Yes, it's a very short exotic mission compared to some of the others we've had. And I guess some of the mechanics kind of get a bit tedious if you're repeatedly running it. But to be honest, as a standalone experience, I didn't think it was too bad. I guess at the same time, my expectations were not massively high following Ash and Iron's launch with the reclaim mode and stuff. So I ended up being ultimately sort of pleasantly surprised in a way. And for the exotic itself, actually, it's a pretty powerful weapon. So given the time investment required to complete the mission, even if you're not playing the game a lot right now, it's totally worth grabbing. As we mentioned, it is possible to get the intrinsic upgrades this week, and the first catalyst is available, which is attrition orbs. And to get it, there's basically a data pad we have to collect and insert during the mission, with a few additional steps that ultimately will reward us that first catalyst, and Karu has a video on that, which I'll link below if you want to check it out. But give us your impressions of the exotic mission and the weapon itself. The weapon definitely, for me, is the best part. Otherwise, this week, of course, we've got Arms Week live. I haven't spent a ton of time with it just yet, but there are some pretty wild mods. One of them able to turn shotguns into, well, almost a machine gun, as you can see right here, which is pretty busted. So again, if you're going to run anything in the game this week, it's totally worth grabbing some of those mods and getting some additional shotgun drops as you play other content. Moving on, following conversation about the roadmap, which we're still waiting for, we do of course know a little bit about the short-term roadmap for D2. Later on this month, we get Festival of the Lost, so I believe that kicks off from the 21st of October, where we'll get the community-voted armor that we can see on screen. There's also going to be an interesting component where we can apply mods that are referred to as costume mods for all of the different set bonuses in the game. And it converts the armor set equipped to a different set bonus, but also reduces the requirements for its set bonus perks by 1, which theoretically is going to allow us to use even more set bonuses, potentially the 2-piece perk, and then at least a 1-piece bonus from a different set, which is definitely interesting. Then there are the green gloopy weapons with a new festival skin. The SMG here could be pretty interesting. It's kinetic and has things like Bewildering Burst, where reloading the weapon after defeating a target causes the next hit to launch a kinetic projectile that detonates into a disorienting blast. And it can actually pair that up with one called Ancillary Ordnance, where rapid final blows and kills on targets affected by debuffs periodically prepare a homing micro-missile, which is launched from the target after the weapon's next final blows. Plus we can prepare multiple missiles. That being one of the more interesting weapon components that we know of for Festival. Beyond that, we'll have to wait until probably around mid-November when we'll get the Call to Arms event, where Bungie have said there'll be a bunch of weekly bonuses giving us more rewards, so it'll be a good final couple of weeks to farm for loot. They've also said we'll earn tokens during that event that can be spent in Renegades to accelerate progression or rewards in some capacity, so it's an end-of-season / expansion prep event, I suppose. And we'll additionally be able to farm for the crossbow, Submersion, which will no longer be rare, I guess, at that point. And as Bungie teased, there'll be a new helmet cosmetic item, equipable for all classes, that has kind of a flaming mohawk and various glows that indicate our performance in the event, as well as additional cosmetic rewards like this skin for the exotic pulse rifle from the season pass. So there will be a handful of interesting things coming up on the path to Renegades, and surely the conversation about these various different changes, the roadmap, all of that kind of stuff is going to accelerate in the coming weeks, because ultimately it's not that long really until we get to the Renegades expansion. So share your thoughts on that below. One final update for the video here. Bungie have said now that they'll share a public update on Marathon's development in the coming months after the closed technical test. So Bungie have another tech test for Marathon coming up soon. It is under NDA, so we probably won't see too much new information from it, although leaks are entirely possible. I know not many players are necessarily super hyped for Marathon, but at least as general Bungie news, this indicates that Bungie are revving up for potentially a new release date, although I'm getting the feeling it's going to be 2026, probably in the early part, before we see the full release. Nonetheless, it's clearly coming, and I will keep you posted as always. For today, that is what we have to round up, so as always guys, I hope you found the video interesting. Let us know how you've got on this week with the new exotic mission, Arms Week, any of the changes, and thoughts in general on what Bungie have announced regarding power moving forward. Once again, keep it locked and loaded here and I will keep you up to date with everything related to D2. But otherwise, I thoroughly appreciate you all and I hope you guys have an awesome day.